Living Art with Michael Woods and Alex too, and Asherah Bayan. And now with us is a poet, Kimberly Barone. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, gentlemen?
Great.
Everything's
It's good to be here. Thanks.
better than fun. Now that we have poetry on the radio, it's getting better and better. So tell us about yourself, Kimberly, and your life as a poet.
Well, I've been in Houston about 25 years, and I grew up on the East Coast and spent 10 years on the West Coast, getting rid of my Houston accent on accident. He's nodding his head. And, the first recollection of my poetry was when I wrote one for my mom when I was in elementary school. And I've always enjoyed, musical lyrics and things, so I'm very easily inspired by nature and acts of kindness and compassion. Those things really leave a mark on me. So, and I like to spread those out into beautiful words. I try to, at least.
Are poets kind and compassionate, do you think?
I try and be. I don't know a ton of poets personally. I think I'm acquainted with probably 35 or 40 poets.
I mean, I guess that's one image is that they're always drunk.
Oh.
You know? You're not.
I know. I'm an athletic person, so I don't really care much for alcohol. It's not my thing.
But, yeah, sensitive or compassionate or whatever is another profile of a poet, yeah.
I think so. I think there are definitely other poets out there that definitely have that soft side.
Yeah.
I believe my sensitivity in general helps me tune into a part of myself that allows me to elaborate on the page. And I especially enjoy sharing poems out loud because I like to emphasize emotion, whether it's through a whisper, something delicate, or some type of conviviality. And it's lovely when I read, and I'm fortunate. Sometimes people have a beautiful reaction. Sometimes people cry. And I like the warmth from that environment.
Another thing that I don't want to get too far off the track here, but another thing it strikes me is poets could be political, especially poets from areas of the world where things are difficult and
that is true.
War-torn.
Yes. And I think there are great outlets for that type of thing. And I don't know quite a lot about politics because I get really sad when I see a lot of strife. So I think other people are better suited to write about that than I am.
Well, I know that Adorno said that there's no poetry after Auschwitz. And then I heard Arundhati Roy say the other day that writing a novel is the most political thing she can do. So somewhere between, right? I mean, sometimes, anyway, didn't mean to get off on that. How long have you been writing poetry?
Well, I stopped for a while because I just wasn't thinking about it much. I was into other activities, but I've been writing it quite intensely for the past several years, I would say. And I've been sharing it in public for almost 2 years now in the city of Houston.
Well, let's have a sample.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So this first poem is actually based on a true story for myself. I'll read it and then explain it to you guys.
Good.
A bicycle in all its cylindrical splendor, I bequeath to you my sweet surrender. Candy-coated wheels, circles matching those of my soul. Along my spine, chakras brighter than sunshine, that I empower through this blessed course of time. While cycling, I sing at the top of my lungs, while cruising and careening under a bougainvillea's pink flowery tongues.
That is so happy.
Great, thanks.
I'm sorry I brought up Auschwitz. Okay.
I think my diabetes is kicking in.
The story, then.
Yes. So I'm a roadie at heart, which means I like road race type bicycles.
Which is what?
Like a road race type bicycle.
Skinny tires.
Okay.
Alex
is our bike expert.
Right. Something you'd see kind of like in the Tour de France, which is a fantastic event, in my opinion. So I went out one day, and there was such a fantastic salesman over at West End Bicycles. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I have to have this gorgeous orange mountain bike. And all of a sudden, I bought it. And I was in my suit. and I wanted to ride it home. So I overpacked my backpack, and I put my blazer in the backpack and all my snacks, and there I was, humming along, and I was cruising up Shepherd, where all these beautiful bougainvilleas were draping. And to build up the courage, I started singing. And I made up something quite comical. I don't know if you want me to sing it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's something like, Bougainvillea, let me go. Wasn't that from like a song, Mona Lisa, that lovely man who sang that song?
Yeah.
That's how I came up with it. It was totally spur of the moment.
Wow.
And I got home and I was so pumped. And it was next to my gorgeous Le Mans road bike. And that was a prized possession of mine.
That's a day of impulses then.
Yes. That's a pretty normal impulse.
Would you say that's
for
close
lots
to
of
the perfect
cyclists.
day you can think of?
Pretty much.
sounds
For a
pretty
cyclist, for sure.
And how long was the bike ride? I'm thinking it's more than
Just a
30
couple miles, yeah. But it was like over the ramp, and I took extra routes, because I was so stoked to have a new bicycle. And I was in like work shoes. It was pretty wild.
You're right in the mud now too, right?
Right. Big tires. Big juicy tires. So I have a couple of other poems.
Good.
Okay. Night shower of stars, please heal everybody's scars. Please lovingly sprinkle their beautiful eyes with cleansing stardust from the skies, withholding no secrets about the rainbow where the mind and heart connect. Flower petals that sing with the wind's song, spreading comfort until the next dawn. So that was a poem I read at a church to a group of individuals who were healing from a pretty traumatic disease. And at first I was humbled. I thought, I really don't know if I should be reading something like this to people who are dealing with something I have not encountered. But I was really happy that I did, because they were really touched by it. Afterwards, they had shared their kind feelings. So I was really glad that I did that.
A lot of poets use natural images as an avenue into spiritualism. So let's say, given the reality that nature can be brutal or impersonal or whatever, I'm wondering if you want to comment on how sentimental you are about nature, as you were in that poem.
That's a nice question. I try to see the good in so many things. I try to be an optimist quite often. And I have seen some pretty tragic things in nature and in life. And perhaps that helps me turn things around a wee bit so I can find a softer side. And I think perhaps I heard somewhere all relationships are mirrors to ourselves. So I think when I look up to the sky, I try and see promise and a better tomorrow for myself and others. And I pray for that quite often. Last thing I say before I sleep is I pray for the end of suffering and the beginning of joy for all beings. And the first part of that is from Tibetan Buddhism, which I'm a bit familiar with. And their phrase is, one of their common prayers on their mala beads is to pray for the end of suffering for all sentient beings. And there are some Tibetan Buddhist monks who are very well known for including all beings, which I feel is appropriate. And from my humble education of Buddhism, sentient beings are beings with a conscience. So, for example, if you were to think of a toad, you might not necessarily think it has a conscience. But I can feel softness and energy from animals and from humans. Mm-hmm. So it's something, like, you don't necessarily have to touch them. You can just kind of reach your hand out and sense energy. And sometimes they have the great gift of being able to do that.
Isn't that something that we would think of animals as if they didn't have that? I mean, a cat can tell you when it's thirsty. A dog, they're not humans, clearly. You don't have human consciousness, but there's I like to call it an intelligence in all of nature,
Yeah, some people, I think, perhaps reference that as a sixth sense. Mm. And I think sometimes if you look in their eyes, there can be a connection developed there and a calmness. I often walk into people's homes and they say, gosh, my dog is normally petrified when a human walks in, but they're always calm around you. Same with children.
And that's what's surprising to me more and more, is that we have to comment on that at all. That somehow we come with a prejudice. I think we're educated to think of animals as things when clearly, like birds can communicate something about maybe an approaching predator or something.
Yes.
I mean, it's just everywhere. Ants, and so on and so on.
Or the silence of birds before a hurricane.
Yeah.
The place just goes quiet.
We just assume that's, we don't look at it, and then when we do, it's so ordinary, we don't see it as a sort of capacity,
That's a good point. In fact, there are so many things that I notice that a lot of people don't. People that I'm acquainted with specifically, but I have lovely friends, and a lot of them are very in tune with things. I think it's a delicacy that the simple, tiny details. That's part of why I like writing these things. And I often try to keep my poems. It's somehow they end up being about 8 or 10 lines, but I don't necessarily. I kind of like it simple that way. But it has so much meaning to me. It's so much more robust that way.
Speaking of which, we have time for one more. So
one more, wonderful.
Close out with one of these.
Please touch the whisper of kindness in your heart and mind. Please allow them to joyfully intertwine, inviting all your healthy cell receptors for an endless good time. Let them dance, and in you find the divine. Each breath, each step brings us closer to the dawn of our swan song. Let her carry in you frivolity, a quest for life, a feeling of peace, an ocean of simplistic bliss, and a life of ease.
I wish you were like my 6th grade English teacher. That's so positive.
Oh, thank you so much. It's lovely to hear.
Great compliment.
Thank you.
All right, so give us contact information if you wish. For
sure. I am on Facebook, and I also have a new email that's KimberlyCyclistPoet@gmail.com, and Kimberly spelt Kimberly.
And it's Barone.
Yes, that's correct. Barone.
Kimberly Barone. All right. Thanks for stopping by and sharing your poetry.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.